Everyone. Today we're going to be interviewing Dean Prilladog Carter and Jordan Sunny Delight Albin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Cool. And they are with the team that's making, I mean, you could call it a mod, but it looks to be about the size of a game called Fallout London for Fallout 4. And they've been working on it for how long now?
Too long is the honest answer. Probably, I think 2020 is when we consider the actual start of what we have now. So yes, about
2020. And today is May 13th, 2024. What month do you remember which month you started on in 2020?
No, it must have actually been because it was just around the start of COVID. So probably around, so it's probably been about 3-4 years now. So so probably about this sort of time during 2020. Yeah.
And I'm assuming, but I could be wrong, that you probably are familiar with other mods out there and very familiar with the mod community. So that being said, how long is this development cycle and how big is this compared to other mods for not just Fallout 4, but mods in general for video games?
So at least on our side, it's been a endeavor that is, we've always considered it as big as it needed to have been. But when we've spoken to other outlets or the like, they're the ones who have said that this is probably one of the largest mods that they've actually seen. When we did one of our trailers that listed what's actually going to be in it, the people are now saying that it equates to about the scale of another game. I can't speak for how big other mods are, but typically they tend to be like smaller quest mods, or even if they have like a large world space, they're still not as large as our one. That's just the feedback we've been given. We try and have made our game about as big as a Bethesda game would be.
Understood. And I know before the interview, before we got started, I said I'd be asking a lot of questions that have already been answered. But for those of us out there and in our audience at VGT and GPT and the other brands that have not heard of the Fallout London mod or project, give us the elevator pitch and educate the audience on what is Fallout London.
So Fallout London, the biggest aim is to take what Bethesda created in Fallout 4 and sort of make it exist over in the UK. So you'll have all the things that you're used to, where you'll be playing around in the post-apocalypse, and you'll have the satire, but that'll all be transformed into like the British setting. So it's aiming to be about the same sort of scale in terms of gameplay and how long the game is, but it's all going to be completely new while still in a very familiar setting.
Okay. And just to be clear, this is when they load this up, because I heard this in another interview. Unlike when someone, let's say they have a horse armor mod for a game, that they just load up the regular save file and then that's something they access within the existing game. Mm-hmm. Fallout London, they download this mod. How is that different? It loads up as its own experience, correct?
Yeah, Sunny is the guy who probably might be better answering that.
Yeah, so essentially we've done everything we can to ensure it doesn't have any requirements. It's probably the best answer I can give for that. So that basically means that when you download Fallout London, of course you require Fallout 4, so there is an additional step. But yeah, by all means, you should be able to just click play and go.
And when you say click play, is that something accessible in the main menu, or is that a quest, or how does that work?
So for your desired platform, or so we got Steam, for example, GOG, etc. That's what I mean. When you press play on the library there, that's when you would launch the game, and it would be Fallout London. It wouldn't be Fallout 4. And then when you press new game on the main menu, there is no Fallout 4. There's no Commonwealth. It is still there. It still exists. You can always go to it if you kind of cheat your way there through the console command for anyone who does know their modding stuff. But when you hit new game, by all means, it's a completely new experience, new game overall.
Yeah, and this is why that when we've said this before in interviews, we say this is more like Fallout 4.5. So it's not completely new. We're not going to hand out CDs and stuff. It's quite literally you'll have a complete new game built on top of Fallout 4. You can't really play Fallout 4. You will be playing Fallout London. So that's why we say it's almost like a 4.5 type of deal.
And I might use that 4.5 quote when writing about this. That's a good one. when it comes to how many hours, and actually, let me go back. So just to be clear, those who aren't familiar with mods or console commands, they would actually want to deactivate the mod to then access regular Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
That
so
makes
you'll
it
be
easy.
playing either Fallout 4 or Fallout London. Basically.
That's the best way it could be in this case,
Yeah.
based on what I've seen. That's awesome. Now, when it comes to, there's main quests, there's side quests, there's faction quests. There was actually a fourth category, I believe, with one of the videos I was watching. When it comes to just the main quest and what would be on howlongtobeat.com, for example, how long does the main quest take? I know it's subjective, but approximately.
So when we've done playthroughs from the start, which was the video that we released, the 80-minute gameplay trailer, that was the start. So from that start until sort of roll credits of just the main quest line, it was very comparable to how long you'd spend in just the standard Bethesda game, which I think clocked in something about 20 hours, something along those lines. And that's before you start doing any of the side quests and what we call, which is the fourth category, the gang quest lines. So that's one that's unique to us. That is basically, and I don't know why we did this, but we did it. It's basically almost like a main quest line that runs sort of in parallel with another main quest line. So in Fort London, technically, you sort of have two main quest lines that you can play.
Are each of those 20 hours?
The Gang War one is slightly shorter, but if you wanted to, you could play that and then call that end of the game if you wanted to. That would be a bit shorter. But you can also then play that, including the main quest line. So overall, I think it clocks in maybe around, if you were to do all the side quests, the main quest, the gang war, that you're probably looking at about 60 or so hours. Would you say that's a fair shout, Sonny? I mean, we don't often, as developers ourselves, we don't really get the chance to sit and play through the entire thing. That's what our testers do, because obviously we're developing as we go. But I think it's something around that. I don't know if that's a fair shout or not.
I think it is. It really depends on how you play, because some people just want to go through and play the story, right? They just want to do the main thing. But in a game, any kind of Fallout game, and especially in Fallout London as well, it's really easy to get sidetracked.
Very much so.
Fighting. It's hard to give an exact number. If I'm not mistaken, though, so Gang War,
Which is Gang War? What is that? Your factions?
That is essentially one of the you could call it a faction, but it's not. It's separate. It's its own kind of side quest or activity, if you will, complete quest line and story, essentially. That is separate from the main quest, but it does kind of slightly tie in.
It's almost like a DLC. Actually, when I think about it for easier terms, it's almost like a DLC quest line amongst our main storyline. Okay. So imagine if you had, I don't know, let's say Far Harbor thrown in with the main quest line of Boston, where you have to go to the Institute and the like. Imagine if for some reason you could go and do Far Harbor in the same world space. It's kind of like that. So
understood.
From testing, if I remember, someone easily spent about 12 hours in that alone.
Oh wow.
Which was just doing it, just testing it, running through it solid, not doing anything else.
Yeah.
So that's give some perspective. It's hard to say though, because like Pearl said, we've never really, as developers, had the time to sit there and play through the entire thing, because we're always developing it, right? We can't sit there and play it. That would be a bit.
Yeah, that's literally the testers love that, because the testers sit there doing this all the time. Whereas we suddenly go, oh, this bit's broken or this bush is floating, then we have to stop and then we go and fix it. So
sure. And with me, I would personally be picking up every single item like I do in Fallout 76 and storing it or scrapping it, depending on which game we're talking about.
I got moaned at for that.
I was going to say, you got slayed after the 18-minute video. They were like, he's not looting anything. And everyone's getting really peeved by it. But like, we're trying to show a video. And
that was actually one of my peeves when I was watching. I was like, I know you did it. Was that you playing through it?
Yeah, that was me recording it and playing it. But at the time, I was thinking, maybe people wouldn't care for me sitting there picking up toilet rolls. You know what I mean?
No, you did it perfectly. It was really well done. You took it slow and saw the sights. It was great, especially when you entered that one building and you looked up and you realized how tall it was.
Yep.
One of the more detailed questions I have, I didn't even have written down, was I couldn't help but think of BioShock.
Oh, I knew it. Oh my! Oh, I knew you were gonna say that.
It's funny. All right, I'm going to answer for Onan. He's never
Yeah.
played BioShock, but he designed that level. Yeah.
It was creepily like BioShock there. The lighting, the fog. I mean, if you played BioShock, you know by looking at it just how BioShock-esque it is. Even like the big face or whatever it is way up high, that's very BioShock.
Apparently so. I've never played it. I have never played BioShock before.
So you're a liar. I understand.
And everyone online is just like, this is just BioShock. Some people were angry, like, oh, he's clearly based it off BioShock. Never played it. Never played it. And everyone was like, oh, they're stealing ideas.
Oh no. It wasn't that close. It was just the vibe. Like you felt it slightly.
I think
it was good.
It's got an Art Deco window. I think there's like lots of Art Deco in BioShock I've heard. So
in some sense, it does mean the style is that, like the fact that was the reaction is really good. Because it means that we kind of hit that, like there is a lot shared between BioShock and Fallout, obviously.
That's a very good reaction. BioShock's very beloved. So, and Ken Levine's probably not going to see this, but why haven't you played BioShock?
I'm too busy, unfortunately.
I came out in 2007. It's been remastered.
I've slept.
You gotta try
then,
that.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna force you to play it. I tell you.
Yeah, you need to. Especially after making that level, you would feel really good. I think.
I walk around being like, oh, they've clearly based this on Fallout London. That's...
100%. They went back and updated it clearly. Well, that's funny. I did not expect that to be the answer, honestly, at all whatsoever. Now, we went over how long the main quest takes and how long the whole thing takes without looting, at least, which means that it's much longer. Because you said that the testers are, quote unquote, running through it. I didn't take that as speed running, but they're probably, their goal is to test the game. So they're probably not playing it like their last save file. So that said, in regards to how big the exterior part of the map is compared to Fallout 4, are we talking 25%, 100%, 150%, 10%?
I can't really answer in percentages, so I'll just do it in like what people might know. Our world space our main world space is as large as Vanilla Games Boston. If you remember, Vanilla Games Boston has a large portion which is all water, because obviously it's on the coast, whereas London is not. It's all cityscape. So from that, it's comparable to the same size. But what we've done for both optimization and just gameplay purposes in the lore as well is we have sections which are cordoned off a bit like how they did in Fallout 3. And those world spaces themselves, if you were to just smash them all together, is probably about the same size as Far Harbor. So the mod is about as big as Fallout 4 base game, Commonwealth, and Far Harbor combined. So larger than the base game.
Oh, wow. That's very good. And I'm assuming there you're including interior and exterior.
No, we've got like 350 something interiors. That was just exteriors. Yeah.
That's just exterior. Okay, that's great news. And in regards to the interior, you said you had 350 interiors. Do you know how big that is compared to the interiors on Fallout 4?
So yeah, I'm aware that sounds like a large number. Like I think the exact amount.
You're talking about 350 load screens, right?
In interiors, as in like you go into a building. That's just how it works for. In the Fallout engine, unfortunately. I would love to not have load screens, but that's just not how it works.
Not a criticism. What I mean is there 350 loading screens, or is there 350 different locations that you can go into that might have multiple loading screens within it, aka other doors you can go in? You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Got you. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I've got the exact numbers here now. So it's about 330. They just says detailed interiors. So I don't know if that's like a room within another room, for example, a factory that you might have then like a second part of the factory or so. Yeah. But yeah, it's probably about 300 to 330. And about, according to what I've got here, is about 48 is about the scale of Corvega, which is like a very, very large cell in the base game. It's one of the big ones you have to go clear raiders out for. So we've got about just under 50 of those huge ones, and then some are obviously medium-sized, smaller, and some are going to be like Diamond City-sized shacks. So
Okay. And so my main focus right now is educating the audience on just how large of a piece of content this is. And on that note, how many team members did it take to build out? I know the answer to this, but from you guys, how many team members did it take to build this? And how long were, on average, how many of that number were active on developing the game at any given time? And how was it developed, given that it is a mod or add-on or another game per se?
So we'd say, in honesty, our team is probably around. It's hard to say because obviously you get contributors which float out the number, but realistically, we'd probably say about 50 or so members. But our core team is about probably 20 people, and they have probably made the majority of that map amongst them. But even then, I would say a lot of that would have come down to myself, the lead level designer, or just the level design team, of which there's probably about 4 of them or so. But yeah, for example, Sunny in his background, if it's there, if you can see it, that one he did. So we'll have like people who are not really in their departments doing sporadic cells now and again. But obviously his main job is to do the builds and the 3D. But the actual world space is the level design team, which I'd probably say is about 6-7 people maximum.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard to give exact numbers on that because it's kind of the nature of modding. You get people who will come in, they'll want to do something for like a few weeks, and then they'll disappear for a few months, and then come back. Everyone has their own projects they're working on. They're not contractually obliged to do anything, right? So it's completely up to them on their free time. They'll hop on, finish something, go do their own thing, come back like a year later in some cases. We've been asked this question quite a lot. It's really hard to give an exact number. But,
no, I'm familiar with the process, and yes, it is. When it comes to recruiting, did you is it? I guess talk about the beginning, like when you announced the project, how you came up with the idea, and did you just announce the idea and then, if you build it, they will come type recruiting process, or how did that work?
Sonny, I'll leave this one to you.
Yeah, there's back in the day. They're still there now, but there's various Discords. I'd say Discord's probably the big one. There's lots of modding Discords out there. If you're a fan of Skyrim modding, you've probably heard of Arcane University, and somewhere on that server, there's no doubt there'll be a promotion channel where you can promote your own project and essentially call for recruitment, or do like a not casting call, but any kind of recruitment. That's how I actually got on the project. As a full-out modding Discord back in the day I was part of, and there's just a recruitment channel in there, and I'd always keep an eye on it. And then one day I saw Fallout London, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've dreamed of seeing that. Join!" And that's how I got on the project. But yeah, we've done more, I'd say, kind of professional or
more formal. Absolutely. So to caveat on what he was saying, Sunny predates my tenure on the project. So this is, we always affectionately refer to it as our crayon eating period, where we didn't know what we were doing. We ended up restarting and all that sort of stuff. That would be the 2019 period. And that was a lot of very bad videos going up on YouTube with someone else who was doing it, who'd put up a video with drum and bass type of stuff on it. And some of them are still up and they're awful. But we put them up because they're funny to us. But yeah, people might see that, and for some reason they thought, you know what, drum and bass on a Fallout video? Yeah, I want to get involved with this project. Skip forward to when I finally took over, working alongside Sally and the others. We've done more professional promotion to try and get people on the team. But even then, by that point, a lot of the team has already been set in place for a while now. And when we had to do recruitment, it might be a single video that says we need this, this, and this, and then that's about it. The most recent one was the voice actors, and then we got like 1,000 applicants, which was far more than we had the capacity to go through. But
oh yeah, 1,000 people. Yeah, I've had a project announcement in the past that had about that, just between 800 and 1,200 people reach out. And I've also worked in recruiting in the past, and yeah, getting through that amount of people, especially if you're working on something part-time, that's a full-time job right there in and of itself.
Well, that's a
Especially
shout
if you're
out
talking
to
about skilled
Dansky.
work.
Yeah, I mean that's a shout out to Dansky, the lead of audio. He basically did that on his own. No one else had any input, because I might listen to something and go, that sounds quite good, and then he'd be like, no, this is terrible, because he has to hear the audio quality, because he needs to know what's going to sound like in game. So he had that all on his own. So he sat through like over 1,000 people on his own. Guy's a machine.
Oh wow!
Yeah, absolute machine.
Was he doing that with the full-time job, or?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, that he is an absolute machine.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I think people don't realize, and this is, I don't know if this is one of your questions. So I would say one of the things that people don't realize when they want to get involved with these sort of mods on this scale is the amount of time and sacrifice that goes in. Definitely when Sunny was saying about like how, I'll just apply on this recruitment thing. It does start like that, and you might, drop something and then vanish. If you want to do that, it's fine as a hobby. But for those that are in like key positions, for example, myself, this guy Dansky I mentioned, and Sunny, and some of the others on the team, this does become your life. And it will need to in order to get it done in a fast time. Like, you must have worked on projects yourselves where you live and breathe these things. And if you don't, then
work on,
and if you don't, then it doesn't get done. It's very, very much that simple. And I think that's why, unfortunately, we end up with the modding scene having somewhat of a bad rep of just things dropping out. People get really hyped and then they just fizzle out because it's been a decade and everyone's bored of it by then. One of the first things during my tenure as project lead was I basically sort of sat down with people like Sunny and was like, this needs to be done as soon as possible. Fallout's every day, Fallout is getting older and older and older. At this point, it's coming up to being a decade old. Like, it needs to be out, type of deal. So yeah, not about cracking the whip, it's about getting it done.
Yeah, I think initially for myself in that, I was done a lot of modding for New Vegas, and I was firsthand just watching it peter out as I was working on Fallout London, and then that's when the realization hit of like, my God, this, it went from mods getting millions of downloads to like thousands within the space of a couple of years, which eventually will, next time Bethesda release, and Elder Scrolls 6 or even Starfield, they're still updating it, so it got really popular again. Like, there is a point when Fallout 4's modding community will just peter out, and you'll get the hardcore people still there doing stuff. That's not a negative thing, but it will happen. It's inevitable. Games lose popularity, right? Some are timeless, we know that, but also some aren't. Right?
I'd actually say I think Fallout 4 basically did peter out at one point, definitely. I'd definitely say sort of end of 2022, 2023, you could see the quality of the mods going out. And I love all modders, but some of the quality of the stuff coming out was not something that you would even be able to put in this interview. Like, the sort of that sort of content was the stuff that was being put out. And it unfortunately drives a lot of people out. So you're getting down to these low numbers and stuff. And it's only been this resurgent that we're now seeing downloads get over like a couple of thousand downloads. Because we even put one out recently and it wasn't exactly bad, but it got like 1,500 downloads. Whereas one of our first weapons we put out was like 60,000. It just shows the drop in like just our existence. So yeah.
And that kind of brings me to my next point to really hype the audience up. I know that and the audience doesn't, someone in the audience may not know this, but what recently happened is that Fallout 4 received a current gen update or a next gen update, depending on who you ask. Obviously, to us, it's a current gen update. That said, I know that caused a delay in the release of Fallout London because it was supposed to come out originally on St. George's Day, which is what, April 23rd?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. And so then, of course, the Fallout TV show came out. And I know there were rumors before it actually got announced, but then it either got announced right before the TV show came out or right after that there's going to be a current gen update for Fallout 4. That has since come to pass. You guys announced that there's going to be a delay past April 23rd, and you weren't quite sure when because of the script extender, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
And with the and based on our previous talks, it sounds like you're unable to give a hard date because you're waiting on third parties. It's more or less out of your hand. Once that's done, you'll be able to update a few things or as many things as you have to, and then get it live as quickly as possible. With that said,
exactly right. Yeah.
With that said, that's a negative that has to be delayed, but it's also, in my eyes, and correct me if we're wrong, overall positive, because the current gen update has resulted, if you're looking at the player numbers, a lot more players are now playing Fallout 4. So even though, and you can't do anything about, this update coming out, so might as well look at the bright side, which is very bright side. Will this, two questions. Will this result in a better looking Fallout London because of this next gen or current gen update?
Sonny, you want to do this because you're the one who's actually done this. So.
So in some sense, I have tested the mod on the next gen. A lot of it doesn't work, of course. Script extender isn't functional, which is absolutely core to some of the extensions we've made to the game. But
before you continue, can I just say I don't think people realize how important it is. Like, I don't know, I understate that. People have bombarded us. We've just released it. We cannot. It does not work unless this gets updated because of how we've built it.
No,
that's just fundamental.
Let alone the testing.
That. Yeah.
Let alone even properly testing it. So we've spent God knows how many hours testing it on the old build. Let alone the next gen update. Who knows what will happen at that point? So
on that note, do you guys actually want to explain what a script extender is for the audience? That way they kind of understand.
This is you, and I will sit here quietly now.
Right. So script extender essentially adds lots of modding. So, a lot of games that have mods have some form of library extensions, and what that means is the code itself is being extended. So things that you couldn't do in the engine originally, you can now do. It's very technical to explain it in layman terms, but a good way of thinking about it is, say before you had a character, your character couldn't fly, but now with this new code they can, and it allows essentially modders to come in and really get to the nitty gritty of the engine that you're working in and essentially burst it open. New Vegas is a brilliant example of that. Some of the things developed in New Vegas using its script extender is absolutely insane. So just for example, probably one of the biggest out there is GIPS extensions. They made a map, for example, that replicates Fallout 1's map. You can open up a 2D map and you click on it where you want to go. So instead of fast traveling for your Pip-Boy and you double click on something and fast travel load screen, you could actually open up a map, click where you want to go, and your character would travel there, just like in Fallout 1. And that's only possible through a script extender. That functionality isn't in the game as it's released. And for us, the implications of the script extender go down to our dialogue. So the way that the dialogue is presented on the screen, the actual intricacies of the dialogue as well, such as the charisma checks, for example, intelligence. Our perk system requires it, so all of our perks go to a custom UI.
It's like if a bunch of mods were all combined together to make Fallout London. So of course that means that I don't know the percentage or if it is in fact most, but I imagine most of the function of this, or at least a very large portion compared to other mods, where other mods they exist within Fallout 4. And I know this technically exists within Fallout 4, of course, but you're quite literally taking them to a different area. And for that reason, and the fact that you have voice acting, which we'll get into in a bit, because I know you guys have some very high quality voice actors amongst, I think, a large cast of voice actors. This script extender is basically used to make all of these different mods work together to make this one really big mod. And so therefore, it's an impossibility. It's not even an option for you guys to release it in its current state. And based on the conversations I see online, Reddit and Discord groups, people are frustrated for something that's completely out of your guys' hands. And I can confirm that just based on my knowledge of development. So, all right, and we're back. With that said, we'll pick up where we left off. With the current gen update coming out, I don't know if we got down to the answer, but and maybe there is not an answer yet because you don't know until, in fact, the script extender comes out and you're able to get it working. But are you not able to tell whether the Fallout London mod / game based on the size is going to have the same graphical or fidelity enhancements as the main game?
So the next gen update doesn't touch graphics at all.
Yeah.
For anyone who thinks that, they're mistaken. It's next gen in the fact that it supposedly helps widescreen users. I say supposedly, not to have any digs, but Sonny's a ultra widescreen user, and all it has done is just stretch his UI out to fit his screen. There is no graphical update in the slightest, and the only thing that has done that has been a positive effect is it does make things run a bit better, because it uncapped the FPS, I believe, or
Right. So in some sense, I don't think it has actually uncapped it, but what we've done on the project in a lot of areas is kind of over-designed a lot of it. What I'm saying is we made it look pretty because we kind of had the time to do that, which obviously on an engine as old as the creation kit, it had negative effects on performance. So one of the most positive things that I took out of that when I tested it on the next gen update was there was a significant performance increase. Now, I don't know why that is or what Bethesda's done there, but there is definitely some performance increases happening, which does benefit us. So in some sense, you could say it increases the fidelity of the actual game and mod itself. But there are no, for example, you're not going to get like ray tracing or some crazy new settings that make the game look insane. You still need to rely on third-party software for that, such as EMB, Reshade, any kind of graphics overhaul mod. If you are completely clueless on what they are, they just basically add new shaders to the game that make it look really pretty. So completely user.
Yeah, and that is something that out there they players do think that there's a huge graphical and fidelity improvements on PC. Whereas on console is where you seemingly will notice the biggest changes based on what I'm reading. And right now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not going to be on console, correct?
Fallout London, no. It's not. No.
Fallout London, yes.
Yeah, okay. we simply can't.
And that's reasonable. In regards to why that is, it's because the size of the mod is simply too large
it's
to bring
twofold,
the consoles.
Yeah. So one, it's just simply too large. And secondly, the script extender doesn't allow it to go on consoles. So any custom assets completely writes us out of PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
Like straight away, like PlayStation's nope. As soon as we
Sony
put
don't
in,
allow
like,
it.
new,
Sony won't let you do it at all.
Straight away.
Yeah.
And Xbox, for those reasons I just stated, which was why in my BT interview, the whole like it would have been nice to have had some form of like conversation with them. Wasn't so much because we can pat ourselves on the back and be like, yay, we spoke to the big boys. It's because if it meant that we could utilize a way to bring it out to more of our fans, that was kind of what we hoped.
Yeah, understood. Yes,
and they're the decision makers on that. It's not us. If they turn around and went, we'll change things on our side to do it, well, then they can. But yeah,
or they make it an official mod.
That's what I mean.
That allows it to go through PlayStation, for example. Understood. And that's pretty reasonable considering the size of it. And in regards to the size, is the size of it going to change? I believe I saw in an interview you said it was going to be between 30 and 40 gigabytes in size. Is that going to change because of this update?
Not because of the update, no.
Okay.
No. So the update is more on the technical side, like the nitty gritty coding side is the sort of stuff that we have to fix. That won't change the size and stuff. No.
Cool. And then in regards to the positive, since we went over the fact that, in fact, graphics and fidelity are not being touched that much by the current gen update, and therefore not reflected that much or at all in Fallout London, the positive is, in fact, that if I look at March 2020, I pulled it up that way, is as accurate as possible. but the peak player count in March 2024 was 25,580 people on Steam via Steam charts. Then the update came out in April. The peak player count went up to 186,746.
Yep.
And it looks like the last 30 days, it's the exact same number. And the gain has been 300% month over month. Average players went from 14,791 to 59,102 in April. And right now, as of the last 30 days, because we're at May 13th, the average player count's actually jumped up to 90,000 from 14,000 in March. So that said, are you guys pretty happy that you are going to have a lot more people accessing this objectively, just based on the amount of people accessing the game and a certain percentage of those accessing mods?
Well, obviously, it's only going to benefit us by more people being able to play our mod. At the end of the day, we are doing this for people to play. Not for any self-gratificatory reason. It's just this is a fan project for fans. So the more that plays it, the better things are. We knew that it would definitely benefit us releasing it around the 23rd of April, as we had originally planned. We had to delay the original time anyway. So the 23rd tied in with when the game started, as well as the TV show was going on. So everything was perfect. Bar this update. The fact that there are now a lot more people playing it, a lot more people are now aware of our project. Yes, there is a silver lining, but again, we'd rather just have our mod in people's hands at the end of the day.
Sure.
It's not, at the end of the day, like on a personal level, I don't really care too much if 100,000 people play it compared to 10,000 people playing it. Great, it's amazing. You know, there's an extra 90,000, but if one person plays it and enjoys it, I'm happy. I've done something cool. I've achieved our goal. I've made someone enjoy their time playing it. So if there's more of those, great. So yeah.
Cool. Well, yep. There will be definitely more than one person playing this and enjoying it very thoroughly. I can guarantee that. I will be one of them, judging by all the footage I've seen. That said, how many people outside of the organization you guys have together per se have gotten to access and play it, and what has their feedback been like?
So we streamed it really very impromptu in our Discord server the other day. I'm probably the leakiest person on the team. Everyone else on the team is very strict to their NDAs. And I just, if I'm just sitting in there talking to our community in the public chat and they ask me a question, I'll just say something. And normally I'll get a message from one of the writers just like, shut up, basically. But yeah, I started streaming some of the levels that I had done and the feedback was amazing. I think it's one of those things when we've been looking at something for so long, you don't really notice how far you've come in comparison to where you started. So when we look at footage from the base Fallout 4 game, I look at it and I just think it looks empty. I still look at certain areas of our map and think it looks empty. And then we showed those areas off in the Discord and people were like, this is amazing. And I don't know if it's just, they're just patting us on the back or not, but yeah, when you compare side to side, we definitely, as Sunny said, we have definitely over detailed certain things. I mean, even if you just look at his background, like that's far more detailed, I think, than most vanilla cells.
See it very well, but
like I don't. Diamond City is probably the most populous place I can think of in the base game, and I don't think that's as detailed as that. That's more like their 76 hub areas, which is on a newer version of the game. So we've definitely pushed it to its limits.
And this may not be a question for you, but is 76 on the same creation engine that
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, but figured I'd ask.
Well, it's all the same engine.
It's the same engine. It's just not. They've updated it for 76. Yeah. They've obviously changed some aspects of it as well.
It's like even
in order
Starfield
to do
is
multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Starfield is what Creation Kit 2.0, so it is all the same thing. Like I think I said it before this interview, you can see in the back that they're using the same boxes. Like when they're doing the dev streams, it's the same boxes that they've been using that we've been using. So it's it's all the same engine. They just keep updating it. But yeah,
understood. Now Fallout London is in regards to the largest mods out there for, AAA games that have a lot of popularity, is this, I assume, one of the, as someone who's not super plugged into the modding community, even though I do game on PC as well as console, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Microsoft. Uh, is this one of the biggest mods that have been created?
So we've been told. I personally don't know. Most of the mods that I've played on games tend to be like small one-off things. I have never really myself delved into like a huge game that's like ours. I don't know if you have, Sunny, but from what I've been told by media outlets, this is one of the biggest mods to ever exist, apparently. So
Yes, from my research it is, but I'll let Sunny continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's some out there on the same scale, I would say. There's definitely projects. I don't know if you've ever heard of Stalker.
I
Anyone
have.
here heard of? Yeah, there was the huge mod project that completely revived that game's relevancy. In some sense, I'd argue it's almost on the same scale. There's mods like
That's a
Enderall.
crazy game for that.
yeah, Enderall I've
exactly.
heard of. Yeah. So.
Enderall is probably a really good example. That's a whole new game in Skyrim. But once again, the primary, kind of reiterating what Pro said earlier, a big issue that we noticed was there would be like huge hype built up around projects and they would just disappear, or it would be like 10 years down the line. That's one of our fears with that, is how long it would take. But yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard one to say for sure. It's the biggest mod.
I can only say what we've been told by media outlets. That's all.
Yeah.
It's at least amongst the largest mods. So,
yeah, I can say that much. I didn't know if you guys had plugged in so much so to verify that or not, but yes, it is definitely amongst the biggest. I actually did quite a bit of research on that, and I've played Skyrim's one of the few games I've modded the heck out of and gotten 300 mods to work simultaneously somehow, and spent more time actually doing that than playing the game.
Oh, that's modding way of life of Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Spend more time modding than playing it. Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after you finally get it to work, you play it for a little bit, and then you don't get your money's worth out of that time you put into it. But that said, I had not heard of Enderall, so I have to check that out. Now, in regards to what you just said, Sonny, people have announced big projects. They've worked on them for extended periods of time and they kind of fizzled out, or they came out so far down the line that there wasn't very much concern or care for when it did launch, because there wasn't that many people accessing the game or talking about the game online anymore. How does it feel to have taken such a big project in the way that you have, where everyone's volunteering their time, they're doing it because they're passionate about Fallout and about the video game industry and development, to have taken from inception or close to inception, if you came in later, all the way to the, almost the finish line? How does that feel?
Well, I'm speechless when people ask that question, really. It went from this phase of, there was the level design there. Like, there was this world that you could just kind of toddle around and walk around and go pick some things up. And it looked cool. It felt new and was like, yay, that's fun. And then suddenly there was a humongous, just a huge change. Once all the questing and the voice acting and the music, when Dansky put all the music in, it just didn't quite register with me at the time. Like, oh my God, this is actually it. Like, it's coming together, right? It's yeah. Like I said, there was just many steps where we started the level design. It was cool, looked nice, and then we had the quests, and it was like, okay, well, it's playable now. You can play it and do things and complete things. But then there was, when the voice lines got in, that's when it was like, oh my God, that is it. Like,
yeah,
it's a game now. Yeah, the moment the voice acting came in and people were speaking to you and you were doing these quests and they were addressing you as the player, and not directly, of course, but that's when it was like, this now has character. Literally, it's breathed character into something that almost felt very moddy, and now it's like, oh my god, this is actually it. I don't really know how else to say it.
I'd say that based on that, it feels pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yes, very damn good.
I mean,
Fair
even
enough.
these things that we've been working on ourselves, like there's bits where, like the other day, I did one of the quests which I hadn't played for a long while, and I was just like, that was really good. And it was literally just a misc quest where you have to like type on computers. Like it was utterly just like a misc quest that's there for like sort of like content, but it still played really well. And I was like, I'm actually having fun playing this little misc quest thing. And who would have thought it? So it's those moments where you do, and that's why like that's probably the reason why we don't like testing too much, because we end up just getting sucked into the own game. We go to test a misc quest, and then 4 hours later, I'm running around like on the working trains and stuff, and I'm just like, I already know these trains work. Why am I on them again? It's because they're cool. Like, it's it just becomes this like great endeavor that you just keep playing. It's really, really fun.
Well, we got to go over how big it is, but in regards to how detailed it is, I don't think someone who just heard about it on this video for the first time understands the amount of effort and how it really does have a lot of the same things that go into a Bethesda game like Fallout 4 going into it, like voice acting, for example.
Mhm.
Why don't we start there? There's voice acting for new characters that are present in Fallout London, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys have a couple, at least in Europe, if not the world. You guys have a couple of big name voice actors on the project, don't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you guys have?
So if you saw the gameplay video, you'll see the two characters you speak to at the start are two of the Doctor Who actors. And so you had Sylvester McCoy, who's also been in Doctor Who. He was in the Lord of the Rings films. He played Radagast the Brown. Colin Baker, who also played one of the Doctor Who characters. So they're both in it. We've got Dan Ball, who's a famous YouTuber. Pathetic Wolf, who's a Twitch streamer. Harapone's another Twitch streamer. And the biggest one that got a lot of coverage recently was Neil Newborn. Obviously, he played Asturian in Baldur's Gate 3.
Wow.
Which I can only appreciate him because he was getting a BAFTA award for voice acting, and he gave us a shout out on the red carpet, which is just mind-boggling. When we saw that, we were just like, oh, okay. But all these big names, like, I don't want to just shine too much light on them because it pulls away from the rest of like maybe the lesser known voice actors, because lots of them are still like professionals in their craft. But just for every Neil Newborn like voice line that goes in, there's probably 1,000 of like an unknown voice actor or actress, and the quality of the stuff that they do is immense. Some of my favorite scenes in the project are various voice actors and actresses that just you would never have heard of, and the quality is fantastic. So shout out to our entire team. Yeah.
And in regards to the casual audience, that because I would argue that pretty much anyone that's what we'd consider a hardcore Fallout 4 player probably is aware of this mod. If they're playing on PC and they are indeed, I know it's subjective, but a hardcore Fallout 4 player, your core audience, however, that hasn't heard of the mod and is hearing about it for the first time, they're probably also in the same camp as people who aren't familiar with the name of any voice actor, including people like Neil Newborn, who voiced the Astarion on Baldur's Gate 3, which won Game of the Year in 2023, in fact, at least at the Game Awards and many other outlets. That said, you had Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker of Doctor Who, Neil Newborn that played Astarion in Baldur's Gate 3, and you said you had what, 1,000, or was that an exaggeration? Or you
No.
So have a lot.
So we had 1,000 applicants. So that could range from everyone who was in the industry to someone who just picked up their phone to just try and get like a role in the mod. We've probably casted, I think about 100 or so people.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of people, but yeah, just the response of the amount, which was lucky for us because it then meant that we could take like the cream of the crop almost.
Yeah.
It was just like the best of the
Obviously.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
We honestly thought we would be struggling to try and get people apply, and yeah, we were very, very wrong on that. Like we had to set like 1,000 people, and that is not an exaggeration. It was actually probably more, probably under stating how many there were. It was a lot of people.
Understood. And that went towards how many characters, how many new characters are players going to meet in Fallout London?
I can't give you an exact amount, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot.
We have way more than the base game.
Oh,
yeah,
way more players in totality than the base game.
Like NPCs that you can talk to. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Wow. That I did not know. So when it comes to Bethesda, has famously hired some of the team that has worked on Fallout London, correct?
Correct. Yes.
How did that impact development of the mod? Is there positives, negatives, neither?
Well,
was that a cool experience or bad?
It's always a double-edged sword with all of these things because these are people that you've worked with, that you know and you get on with, and Bethesda have a very strict like non-compete rules. So if you are on a mod and you go and work for Bethesda, you can't really keep on modding, not if you're actually employed at the office. I don't know if that's changed, but that was definitely the case at the time. And the thing is that there's a reason why these people got hired, because they were fantastic at what they did. So Siren, fantastic writer. When she went off, she's now, I think, an associate quest designer or something along those lines. And then our technical advisor for the creation kit, Ryan Johnson, Ropeke, he went to Bethesda now, and yeah, he's doing stuff on I think 76 or something like that. But yeah, the work he did in Fallout London is still some of my favorites. Really, really good stuff. So it's a shame that we can't work with these people anymore. But honestly, like hats off to them. Like, you know, their hard work results in them going to these places, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a double-edged sword, because you can't be upset with people that you are working on this beautiful thing with, being able to make an opportunity out of it, but due to the non-compete agreement, not being able to work with them on this, that does stink. But moving on, when it comes to, we saw a lot of the backlash from the modding community when Skyrim's newest update came out, since it caused issues with pre-existing mods. In terms of Fallout 4's new next-gen update, other than the script extender, has it impacted development at all?
I mean, we've been working on basically as we have, haven't we, Sonny? Realistically.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
okay.
so yeah, we decided to basically just continue on the older build so that we can prep it on for the new one. But of course, we have people working on the actual update itself to bring it into the next gen, especially the scripting.
Has it given you guys more time to work out the kinks and do a lot of things that you were already doing and a lot of development companies do leading up to the release of a game, and give you more time on that to smooth things out? Because I know that there is, like Bethesda games famously have a lot of jank when they come out. I don't know if this game has a lot of jank or how that works or compares.
Well,
but
it's on the same engine.
More time?
It's on the same engine. So, I mean, to use your terminology of jank, yeah. So Fallout London will have, you know, an equal amount, but that's the necessities to try and get things to work on quite an outdated engine, unfortunately. Sure. You know, this is where Sunny goes, that we have pushed the bounds off it. You know, Bethesda famously did, I always go to this thing, which is the train hat. In order for them to get a train to work, it was just a player character wearing a hat, which was a train, and then you move really quickly. That was how they solved that. Whereas Sunny has a fully animated and rigged train system. So that's far beyond what Bethesda did. But yeah, it's those sort of like workflow and systems that we just need to just keep plowing on and doing. We can't really just be distracted by working on the next gen stuff. And it's just making sure that the stuff that we have done is going to work on that. So that's more what we've been doing.
Understood. Now, on one interview, and I might get this wrong, on one interview, I believe, listening to you talk, and you were talking about how I wouldn't call it an Easter egg, but I would. There was an Easter egg somewhere in the game where there was 3 small statues of baby Sean or
Oh,
one of
yeah,
the
a
characters.
classic.
Yeah, what was it again?
Ah, yeah, the
Oh,
classic.
God.
So, around Trafalgar Square in London, they have these very ornate like lampposts with like cherubs or something on them.
Yeah.
And I thought, because Sonny's a very busy man in the 3D department, I thought I would save him some effort and I would just do it myself. So I found the baby that was in game, which is baby Sean. I put a material swap on him. For those that aren't aware, basically you're just texturing them a different color. So he then became a cast iron looking baby, and I just stuck him to the side of a lamp. Job done. And it actually looked fine until I realized that Sean had pre-baked animations in it. So in game, and
Oh my
unfortunately I had
God.
done this streaming to the community, they then witnessed what was basically 3 baby Seans made of cast iron basically nailed to the side of this lamppost and doing like this baby gaga goo goo like animation, and it was quite horrifying. Unfortunately to the community, I'm not including that in the mod. They wanted it as a settlement object. No, that was deleted and it will forever remain deleted. Nobody
So it did in
nobody
fact
needs to
delete
see
it.
that. No one needs to see that.
And for those who may not remember or know, who's Sean again?
That's the baby protagonist of the main character, so it's their child basically. It's just
It's from the original Fallout 4, yes.
yeah.
So
Poor
you
baby
did in
Sean.
fact delete that from the game.
Yeah,
He's not making
That's
it.
not there anymore. No.
It's probably for the best. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. That was funny when I was just looking through all the interviews. That one, you actually did that interview live, I believe. And I was cracking up. I was like, what the heck is going on
Yeah,
here?
that's one of like the favorite bits of Fallout London lore. I think that one just it
Now,
was the way
let's
it came
say-
about in a public chat as well. So the community members that were in there got to see that, and I was just like, no, remove, delete.
Yeah, not in 2024. Who knows what would happen? So let's say some of the audience wants to learn more about the game when it comes to the main story, the main character, what's going on in Fallout London. Whenever they start it, what is Fallout London about as a whole? What is the overarching timeline of events or the vibe, or what are they working through?
So we made sure to have an executive decision to not replicate what they had done in any of the other Fallout games, which was that you're looking for a family member, something like that.
Yeah.
We wanted something more akin to a bit like New Vegas, where you have to sort of understand what is going on. And that way it allows you a clean state to create the character that you want to play as. There's no preconceived notion of you having a child like Sean that's going to end up as a lamppost at some point. There'll be none of that. It will literally be you as your character that you've created. You have to figure out why you're in this location. For those that have seen the gameplay video, you'll notice you wake up in a lab. If you didn't, that's the only thing I'll say on that, so it's not spoilery. But why are you there? You have to then work that out, and then things unfold on that journey of discovery. That way you can decide if you want to go and play as an archer and go live in the woods of Wandsworth, you can do. If you want to go and just settlement build, you can do. It still works in the contents of what you are doing. There's none of this, oh, I'm building houses, but I still need to go and save my wife and Sean or something like that. Which was something that I thought was a bit disjointed from the base game, and a lot of the writers felt the same. So we wanted that blank slate where you can play and explore yourself and do what you want as yourself. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Understood. And just for the audience, I did watch I believe it was 18 minutes and some change of the opening of the Fallout London game. I'll call it in this case due to what it looked like, because it had a very similar opening to a Fallout game, although it was unique in the fact that you were in fact not looking for a family member. Because as we know, I have not played Fallout 1 and 2, nor have I looked into them other than to see where they fit on the timeline. I don't know if that's the case there, but on 3 and 4, you're in fact looking for a family member in both games in one way or another, whether you know it or not. So that said, I will say to the audience that the opening for this was an extremely strong and interesting opening, especially because it had that BioShock Art Deco feel, but also it felt a little more horror-like than the other two Fallouts. And this is something I heard talked about in the other interview a little bit as well. I don't know if it was the same one or not, but due to the way the flashlight works, and the way that it casts the light, it gave off. It's not a horror game by any means. I don't want to give that off, but it had a creepier feel in a good way, kind of like BioShock at the beginning. And I thought that was extremely interesting. But I won't say anything more. I was about to.
Sonny's more the horror aspect in a lot of his level design, and that was definitely something that I feel like we wanted to incorporate. I'll let you speak on this more, Sonny, but like I have terrible eyesight, so I require like to see a lot of light on my screen and stuff. So we were very adamant that if we are going to have a torch which plays into the horror thing, you also need to have the option for people like myself so you can light up things. But if you want to immerse yourself in some of the horror cells, it really plays into it by having a torch that does it. Because I think what Bethesda tried, and then you just had this like huge illuminating light, and it just ruined like what they were trying to do. So we've given the players the option, and like I said, our whole storyline is based on that option of exploring and doing things that you want to do. Nothing's crowbarred. You must do these things. But yeah, in terms of the actual level design, Sonny, I don't know if you want to speak on some of your levels, because they're definitely the more horror-esque ones.
And real quick, just to interrupt, when he's talking about the huge light, he's talking about the light that illuminates from the Pip-Boy for the audience.
Or the Attaboy in our case, but yes, that's...
Yeah. In your case, the torch or the flashlight, but yes, in the regular game, the Pip-Boy. But yeah, Sonny, what you want to go over that?
Yeah, so for me, I always felt like horror was a huge part of the whole Fallout scene. I played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, even the original Fallout 1 and 2. Fallout 1, I was too scared to play when I was young. I just found it overly creepy. I don't know if that was art style or because I found it really difficult. I think a lot of people did. That probably played into it quite a lot. But one of the most memorable moments for me in any Fallout game was when I first came across a ghoul. Like a feral
in
ghoul.
the subways, Fallout 3.
In Fallout 3, there's specifically a sewer. It's like near a little shop that you can go buy food at or something. But there's a little sewer drainage pipe, and I went into it, and I heard that feral ghoul scream. So when they aggro on you, when they become aware of your presence, they go like, oh, right, they make a scary noise. I quit the game. I was too scared. Bear in mind, I was like 14 at the time, and I'd never really played many games, and I absolutely crapped myself. I don't know what to
That means
say.
you're about my age, Sonny. How old are you?
I'm 26 now, I think. Then.
Oh, okay. So you didn't play it. That means you didn't play it when it first came out, correct?
No. I played it. I wasn't allowed to.
Did.
My parents were very strict on what games I was allowed to play. I got my hands on Fallout, and yeah, I think for me, when I was kind of building the levels I was building, I was almost about to quote Bane then, be like, "Darkness is your ally," but I like that kind of right. So when you're underground in a post-apocalyptic kind of setting, something I really like about the Metro series, I'm kind of forking off here a bit, but in the Metro series, everything is just pitch black until you illuminate it. That's how light works, right? If you're in a tunnel that has no lighting, it is pitch black. It's something I never really liked about the base game, Fallout 4. I always had to mod it to make it kind of feel more enjoyable. You go to an underground cell and the whole thing is lit. You can see everything in the distance. You can see everything right close to you.
It's for
gameplay. I never thought about that.
It's for gameplay, yes, but in my personal preference, I never really enjoyed that.
It's like an ongoing argument whenever we're like, no, it's the gameplay, and then it's like, oh, there was a merge issue, and all those lights you put in got removed. Oh, did it? Is it now dark again? Oh, funny that, yeah.
But I just felt like that it really helps set the atmosphere. You go into the underground, what was the underground stations of London, and it's creepy. Everything's pitch black, all the lights are gone, and there's one flickering that still works from some residual power somewhere. For me, when I was designing them cells, that's what really kind of hit home for me. That if that was, I wanted to kind of link it back to that Fallout 3 experience I had, where the subway system was just terrifying. When I was young, I found it really scary, and I think we really wanted to capture that. And like you were saying, the flashlight, having that realistic kind of, it comes from your hip in the game, or in Fallout London, sorry. You have a little hip flashlight that it beams out of. Just having that just makes it feel so much more like, oh my God, yes, this feels creepy. It feels right. Compared to the Pip-Boy light, which is just this giant orb that lights up everything around you.
Yeah.
Everything in your peripherals comes into vision, which isn't spooky in my opinion. But yes, there's a trade-off between gameplay being friendly to the player, almost holding their hand through what should be something that's creepy, or post-apocalyptic, which I think innately is creepy. It's very unnatural, isn't it, if you think about it, compared to what would feel really atmospheric and almost dangerous, right? Should I go down that hallway that I can't see anything down? Is there something waiting for me? I feel like capturing that's really important. And that's all done through the level design and the way it's lit.
So would you say it's more like Metro than it is Fallout 4 in regards to the undergrounds?
In some of the cells that I worked on, definitely. When I say cells, I mean levels. So like the one you can see behind me here, when something isn't lit, it's pitch black. You can just about make out what's there. But some other, of course, there's lots of level designers on the team. They'll have their own way of doing stuff, their own way of lighting things. That there's templates that you can use for lighting as well, which give you the general atmosphere of a cell or level. I need to decide on one or the other, cell or level from now on. But for me personally, I wanted to really capture the creep factor. I feel like it fits so well into Fallout.
Yeah,
just
it's
the horror vibe.
And I never thought about what you pointed out. That is, in fact, when you go to the underground levels in Fallout, especially if the Pip-Boy is on, but you don't even necessarily need the Pip-Boy on. In many of the cases, the room's already pre-lit, even if you can't see any light, unless you have the darkness turned down. And even then, because I've messed with the brightness settings while playing Fallout for this very reason, I just never thought about what you stated. It is like too bright. Of course, that's subjective, and I know it was a gameplay choice. To Prilla's point, but yeah, no, that's going to be very interesting.
I think in some sense that does link. I don't want to waffle on too much, but I think it does absolutely link into something that we have all agreed upon as a team, and that's the fact that we want Fallout London to be a little bit difficult. We don't want it to be. So one of my biggest complaints of Fallout 4 when I first played it as a consumer of the product, right? Not someone who wanted to mod it or whatever. I just found it way too easy.
Yeah, it was easier than 3.
Yeah, I just didn't get that atmosphere that I got from 3, where you went down into them tunnels and it was like, I want out. Oh, I just want out. It's horrible. But my quest marker is telling me to continue. Right. And I think for a lot of us, we've all agreed on that. We want the game to feel a bit more difficult. And even in the level design, when you're not hand-holding the player for a brightly lit cell, right, or a level, still need to make the decision on that. When you're not hand-holding the player by lighting everything up, so it's really obvious where to go, or they don't feel like they're in danger, or the atmosphere isn't just quite there for me. I think that's something we all kind of agreed on as a group when we were working on the project.
Some of the new systems we've put in as well, that people might have overlooked somewhat. We've put in these things called search systems. So one of the biggest pet peeves with myself and a lot of the teams was that you do a quest, and these dates back to Skyrim. You'd go down this cave that had never been entered for thousands of years, and they'd be like, find this, I don't know, tablet, and then there's a big marker that says it's right here. Then you go in and you're like, all right, cool, I've got the tablet. That's apparently been lost for thousands of years, but it's right there for reasons. So we now have search markers, which it will then, rather same sort of concept, but it'll point to the marker, and then you'll get like a radial, and you have to go and find out where it is in there. So there's one quest that I can think of where you have to go get someone's journal that's amongst lots of junk, and there's hundreds of like books and tins and everything, and you have to literally rummage through and find it, rather than it's this one here. So
well, Dean, they are the Dovahkiin, so I mean, special powers and all. That said, when it comes to the overarching timeline, is this taking place at the same time in history or the future in this other universe as Fallout 4, or is this taking place at a different time?
It's between Fallout 1 and 2, so it's 2237.
Okay, cool. Now, is that like obvious, or is that something that they dig up throughout their playthrough?
Yeah, you'll discover it as you go through. I mean, largely the dates in Fallout are somewhat irrelevant. When they turn around and say, I think they only do it in 4 because they need to show you that you've time traveled, basically. But in ours, yes, you'll pick it up, but it's if you'll know. It's because, for example, we have Tenpenny in the mod. That's not a spoiler. We've already shown that. He's a lot younger because it's way before you would have introduced him in one of the original games. So I think by about 50 years. So.
And the FEV, the virus that causes super mutants to happen within the Fallout universe, from what I can see, that's not present in London.
No, we don't have super mutants. No.
Understood. So with that, what was the decision behind to keep the FEV out of London?
Just law reasons. It never reached there. It was a US-based thing for the most part. All the law says as such. We've adhered to every bit of like European and UK law that has existed. There isn't much of it, but we've adhered to it. A lot of it has been extrapolation. So, for example, in the law, they sent protectrons to Mexico, which technically means they've gone overseas. So why not? They could have reached the UK. Whereas the FEV literally says that it was a US thing. So we had to stick to that.
Cool. So that said, for the audience, you've stuck to the lore as much as possible, because from what I can tell, there hasn't been a single playable scene of Fallout outside of the United States, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Therefore, you guys had a lot of wiggle room to play with, but I'm assuming that you did your research on terminals and other lore available to you to make sure that you were sticking to what lore there was, despite the fact that there is no playable Fallout outside of the United States, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the information was held in what was called the Fallout Bible, which apparently is now non-canon, but we still adhered to it because it was still wrote by Bethesda and it had a basis of it. So everything that has been wrote, regardless of if they consider it legitimate now or not, we've still adhered to 100%.
And that goes into my next question. How was the research done in order to determine, hey, we need to do this, and here we actually have some wiggle room for creative action, because there is no, context given by Bethesda or anyone to do with the Fallout series on this subject? Was it this Fallout Bible exclusively, or did you guys look at a bunch of different sources?
Yeah, scoured everything. Yeah, we have a writing department.
That?
So literally, so at the time, I don't know if it actually still exists, the Wikipedia that was up for the modding scene basically had a lot of information on there. But yeah, also the external things, so like the Fallout Bible and all that sort of stuff. Basically, any single bit of content that existed basically online that was sanctioned at least by Bethesda was read, and decisions were made on it. But yeah, we had an entire writing department which dealt with that.
Okay. And I know outside of this interview, earlier today, in fact, we were messaging in Discord, and I had noticed how actually it pops up in multiple videos, but in the reveal trailer, I think or maybe it was the gameplay reveal trailer, there was a symbol that was inspired by the Freemasonry symbol, the square and the compass with the G in it is the Freemason symbol. But you guys had that flash 3 times during the beginning of that video, and then you can see it a lot throughout the gameplay trailer. And that represents one of the would you call this a faction or a gang?
Yeah, they are a faction. They're a faction, yeah.
And it was called the Angels?
Angel, correct. Yeah.
Angel.
Yeah, so that's the Angel organization, which I guess if you were to draw parallels is closest, I guess. Would you say the Institute, Sonny, if you were to draw some form of parallel? They're not like them, but I guess it's... Yeah.
In some sense, it's similar. You can consider it in the same vein.
The sort of boogeyman vibe, I guess, is similar.
Sure.
Mr. House. Yeah. Mr. House is a good... Not exactly, but, you know, like he has a bit more influence over New Vegas, for example.
That's probably a solid... Like, imagine Mr. House and the Institute had, like, a love child. I guess that would kind of be Angel, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, someone pulling some strings, but you're not completely aware of it until you start peeling the layers of the onion back and then digging in deeper. Which I thought was a very interesting way and very cool way of utilizing something that was inspired, but not directly replicating Freemasonry imagery in that case, because in place of the G, you guys have the A there for Angel. That said, what were some other inspirations story-wise, whether it comes from other games, movies, books, etc., for some of the characters, stories, quests here in real life?
So I have a very... My education is in history, so I want to bring a lot of history to the London scene. So the fifth column, for example, have some sort of like authoritarian roots. For the closest one would be the British Union of Fascists, because it's based around Cable Street and the like, which is famously where the BUF lost their fight for power, I suppose, to put it in layman terms. So there's sort of that historical side of it. Obviously, Camelot being based around King Arthur and his knights. We also had the Peaky Blinders, which is a fantastic TV show, and that is what the Vagabonds are based off. And then we sort of like did other ones. So you've got the Isle of Dogs Syndicate, who are a bit closer to like the Cray twins. They dressed somewhat like teddy boys or like gangstery, like sort of like a weird amalgamation of the two. And obviously the gentry, which are like your upper class, like elites type of deal. So we really wanted to get like the different sections of culture. And the gangs is where we could really theme them out. So we've got the Pistols, which are the punks, Miller's Men, which are more like your traditional skinheads, not the current generation of skinhead, the actual old British origin skinheads. And then the Roundels, which are like mod culture, as in the fashion one, not a mod.
So you have some Freemasonry inspiration, some Peaky Blinder inspiration, a lot of others. I think I read online, and you know, if this was in spoiler territory, I apologize ahead of time, but there is a recurring character in the Fallout universe that's related to a perk called the Mysterious Stranger. Do you care to talk on that and what the version of that is for Fallout London?
He's clearly based on James Bond, or in our world, which is 005. So he will appear. Did we settle on him looking like Sean Connery? I think. Sonny, I think so, I believe, because it was between Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. I think we went with Sean Connery. So yeah, he kind of looked like Sean Connery. He appears, does his thing, and then vanishes into the distance. But yeah, that was sort of like our nod to the Mysterious Stranger, 100%.
As someone who owns, I think it's 24 of them now, all 24 Bond films and watches, I own them all in Dolby Atmos and HDR and 4K, and I watch them all probably every other year. So I thought that was a very cool little nod to 007, or in your case, 005, you said?
Yeah.
That's
well,
very
obviously
cool.
We couldn't call it 007 for clear reasons.
Yeah.
But very cool nonetheless. And good choice on Sean Connery. The movies were much different back then. They would not fly today, but they were good movies. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but very good.
Yeah,
I
I mean
do know
more
what you're referring to.
yeah, more theme specific as well, I would say as well, because obviously like the whole sort of Cold War era sort of genre, I guess, fits better with the Fallout universe. So yeah, it made more sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. What are, in lots of ways, when it comes to things that can be measured, uh, something that's been said multiple times on this interview, let alone other interviews I watched, is that the numbers, it's bigger than the base game. And on that note, there's a lot of content here. And so if you're not able to answer the question, no big deal. I'm sure you guys have a lot of parts you like. But what are both of your individual favorite cells or levels? And then your favorite outdoor areas. And I know you guys have been asked this before, but if you could
Oh,
describe them as well.
Sonny, I'll let you say yours because I need to think on mine. I'll throw you under the bus.
Lord, is this specifically Fallout 4?
No, Fallout 4.
Armor.
I'm sorry. In regards to Fallout London, because
Oh, Fallout London. Sorry,
yes, in regards to
my
Fallout
brain.
London,
That thing we
yeah.
work on. Yeah.
That thing. Oh my lord. Oh. Oh, I can't. I don't think I can answer that. Because I would have favoritism for my own stuff. Obviously, it's the best.
Yeah, I
No, I
believe
can't do that, can I?
I believe Dean chose something he had made in one of the interviews. There was a piece that he made that he liked especially. I
Yeah.
can't recall the name of it.
Mine was. I really like the vault I did. Like it's like an overgrown vault type of deal. It's not a vault. It's the Pindar. Sorry. But yeah, it's all overgrown and stuff. And apparently they had done something similar in '76. I don't know. I hadn't played it, but yeah, like the overgrown Pindar station. I really like how that came out. I don't often like pride myself on my work because I always think it's subpar comparison to other people's. But that one I was very impressed with, like what I came up with. But for
And
other
right-
people's, definitely Sunny's. I really like Thames Haven. It's got such a unique vibe, I feel.
And what was that called? If you want to describe it, Sonny.
It's a. Oh, sorry. Go on.
What the cell? It's Thames Haven. I actually, when I was building it, based it around Metro Last Light's Venice, which is like a really built up underground, but it's flooded, like a flooded underground, and they've built all these shacks across the water. And I really wanted to capture that with it. But probably my favorite area, probably one that I made, was Bermondsey. It's really small, it's really insignificant, but the little scene with the boat, you see going through with a ferryman who's the green guy who sits in the back driving it. At the time when I built that, I never imagined any of it actually being significant. And then suddenly we've got this whole scene with the boat going through it, and you can kind of shoot at stuff whilst you're going through the boat, and you got the ferryman driving it behind you, and it all came together really well.
So like a gameplay sequence that is unique.
Yeah, in some sense, yeah. The area though, like I love building like flooded cityscapes. I absolutely love that visual in like post-apocalyptic scenes. They did it in the base game as well. I can't remember the area, cannot remember it for the life of me. There's an area in that's really built up, but it's also flooded. Don't know if you ever played it, but Crisis did it as well with New York, when they, the aliens invade and they break the water barriers.
Which
and
Crisis?
Suddenly, Crisis 2 and 3. You're going through like the post-apocalyptic kind of New York setting that's all flooded. I love that setting personally. I think it's really cool.
I played those when they first came out, so it's been a while, but I remember that, and that was a very cool visual setting.
Yes, yeah. I think there's just something innately really interesting about seeing a city just flooded. It's so otherworldly in a sense.
Well, I'm glad you're not God.
Yeah.
That said, a couple out of pocket questions here. What happens if you write COC space Diamond City X in the console while in Fallout London?
You'll go to Diamond City.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't be able to.
Oh, it works.
Yeah, it works. You'll probably break some things. You might notice people won't talk to you. Most of them will. I think the traders will.
Oh, they won't talk to you.
They probably will. To be honest with you, I don't think.
I
we've
think
really
they'll talk
considered
to you with English accents, I believe. But
it. Oh,
yeah,
that would be
Well, that's
great,
very
wouldn't
cool.
it? That would be
Um,
great.
would this mod have existed if it weren't for the COVID lockdowns?
no, I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
I reckon it would have been another destined to die project. So 2019, as I said, the year where we were just not really knowing what we were doing. You do a lot of talk, not much actual level design and stuff. That was all the stuff that got scrapped in 2020 when we then took it like seriously because we had this free time. I just think we would have, when we decided it would all gone wrong, that was very much a make or break. The fact that we had nothing else to do other than sit inside for in the UK like 2 years. I reckon if we were able to continue and like with life as normal, no, we would have just been like, nah, I'm done now. I'm off. I honestly reckon, at least that's with me. Because I mean, I was backpacking at the time and it was like something interesting in the evening, but to then the scale now where I like, wake up, sit on the computer and then go to bed. Like that's literally what I've done for the past 2 years now. That wouldn't have been possible sat without the investment that we put in during the COVID period, at least on my side. I don't know about you, Sunny.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. The COVID period for us was I'm really trying to avoid phrases that we would understand. I could maybe explain it. We call it our goinking phase. Goinking basically being like throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks. But it's the best way I can put it. That was really the period where we all had enough free time to explore ideas, basically crack the engine open. It was a huge period for me where I was doing the 3D side of stuff, and I was like, well, how do I do this? How do I make something move? How do I, make someone explode, etc. Whatever it is. That was when a lot of that really happened. We're basically cracking the engine open, going, that's how that works. Oh, that's how Bethesda did that.
Sure.
Yeah, so
you're right. Actually, it was the learning phase, and I think that's what a lot of these other projects that start when they like you're trying to balance your full-time job. Maybe you've got kids, more whatever. You don't have time to learn. You need to just do it right, and then unfortunately, you'll probably do it wrong 10 times. And by that point, you're a year invested. You've actually got nothing to show for it because you've just done it wrong. You might have finally worked it out, but by that point, the passion, the light has gone out, and you're like, I'll move on to something else. Especially something that maybe you think, I'll do it. Might as well at least apply this to something that I can get money for. Whereas, obviously being a mod, we can't really do that. But the fact as Sunny very clearly explained, that he had the ability to learn during this period of just keep trying and trying, and it didn't matter. Didn't matter if it took a month, 2 months, or 4 months, because we still had the whole 2 years to sit there twiddling our thumbs. So, yeah, the amount of learning that we all did during that period was astronomical. Yeah, 100%.
And you guys really took the bull by the horns because you had no way of knowing it was going to be 2 years either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it could have been longer, or it could have been just a couple months total. And you guys had decided to take the bull by the horns and really knock it out. And that really was the perfect storm, so to speak, that allowed
that's
for
probably a
this
great way
come
to
to
say
life.
it. Yeah.
And that's very interesting. That was one of
I
the
think,
questions.
Sunny, you said this. This was a quote in one of your interviews where you said that like we could have just spent our times playing games, but we decided to make one instead. It was something along those lines, and it's
That's
true.
a great quote.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we like to get hyper focused on things. That's how a lot of us work. And
Same.
yeah, if we didn't, we would. Yeah, I know we'd probably be like level 1,000 in Fallout 76 or something, which is great. If you want to do that, fine. People want to use that to chill out. But when I get invested in that, that will become my life. And then
Same.
I don't know. I'll probably be a bit like Cartman in the South Park series, where I'd be like ginormous. I've been playing World of Warcraft this entire time, like that. That's what would have happened to me. But instead, we channeled it into something creative. And I guess definitely at the start, it was kind of like playing The Sims. Really, like we were just like building stuff. It just become fun. When you start scripting, that was the non-fun bit. Because that's when you have to start taking it very seriously because it needs to work. But the creative endeavor of just building levels and stuff, it was almost like playing a game, but with an end goal that we get to share that with other people, I suppose.
Yeah, like building a settlement, so to speak, but a lot more in depth.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah.
Oh, I
But
could
yeah,
never
no,
go
when it
back to
comes to the
settlement building in
scripting-
game. I could never go back to settlement building in game after
Oh.
the creation kit. Like I would
don't
end
doubt
up
it.
just building stuff in the creation kit. Like, here's my mansion.
Yeah, but no, when it comes to the scripting, and of course you're not talking about actual scripts, I assume, but rather the scripting of events on the back end of the platform.
Yes.
That, yeah, taking that serious, you have to, otherwise everything will just break. Because it's a bunch of if this then that statements.
Yeah.
But that said, and I don't know if this question would be offensive or not, but originally I believe there was supposed to be a ghoul. It might have been a ghoul. It might have just been a human. I forget what the details were. That was representative of Queen Elizabeth II. That was removed from the mod after her passing. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What were the original plans for that character? Are you able to speak on that?
Yeah, so a lot of people think it was like some sort of like semblance of just being a royalist or something. The honest truth was that it was a play on the fact that Prince Charles, now King Charles, is the oldest, or at the time was the oldest prince in waiting. He'd been waiting 70 odd years to become king. So it was a play on that. So you had, at the time, Queen Elizabeth, who I think passed when she was 93 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be like, oh, she had now become a ghoul and he's a ghoul. And as we all know that they live for like ever. So it was like meant to be just like a sort of harmless play on the fact that he's still waiting. Obviously that all fell down because, well, she passed away. Then he became king.
Yeah.
So if we were to like just regress it to then be like trying to force what we were originally intending, it would have just made no sense. And then obviously it would also just be disrespectful for someone who's just died. You've now just turned into basically a zombie.
Yeah.
So it was definitely two sides of one.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
It was, removing like the disrespectful element and also just the tongue in cheek thing just made no more sense. So yeah, it just made sense to remove it. And when people started, literally, we got a lot of flack. They're like, oh, I can't believe you cowards. But it would have just made no sense. We were already bending it to make sense anyway. Yeah, but we were already bending it anyway because she would have had to have lived to
151 or something like that. Yeah.
So in order for us to get our little like tongue-in-cheek joke, we were already like bending the reality of how things would have been anyway. So
and to give context on that for the audience, what we're saying is that Queen Elizabeth II would have had to live to 151 or something, because she would have had to live to 2077, because that's when the bombs dropped. And that would have been a ridiculous age anyhow. So it did just make sense regardless. So honestly, I thought that was a good play, but was curious to the original plans behind the character. Did you guys replace that with the character, or what do you guys end up doing with that whole thing?
Yeah, we teased it in one of the recent faction videos with the new Royal Cipher. People can go and investigate that because it does say somewhat in it. But yeah, we never strictly say, so I won't say it here, but you can sort of at least see the cipher and you can probably work it out. And that was designed by Sunny. Now,
I'm someone who doesn't listen to music with words 95% of the time. I listen to video game soundtracks and I work. Because like if there's words in
this
music,
is your territory, Sunny. This is
yeah.
So that said, real quick, I just grind out Halo Infinite multiplayer soundtrack, and like that's my jam. Or Halo 3 because the memories, among other things. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was like my #1 listened to album like 2 years in a row. And so that said, are you guys going to be releasing the full soundtrack or the radio music for this game? And whether you are or aren't, how much music or sounds are in this game that you guys created?
It's already on our YouTube.
Awesome.
We have the full radio OST and the actual in-game. What would you call it? There's
ambient.
The ambient soundtrack. When you're exploring without your radio on, or you get into combat, that's all up on YouTube already. I think it's somewhere in the realm of about 4 hours.
Oh wow,
something like that.
Maybe 5 hours.
That's a very good length.
Yeah, as far as I know, every single song has been replaced. There is no base game vanilla music anymore.
In the elevator, because it operates it
Oh,
differently.
yes,
That's
the
it.
elevator
Just the
music's
elevator.
the only thing. Yeah.
And why was that?
It just handles it differently to the other ones. It would have just been like an extra sketchy way of replacing it all out. So we just decided not to. And at the end of the day,
Okay.
it's elevator music. Like it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be that crazy. When
Yeah.
it comes to the radio music, again, for the audience, what have you guys done with the radio? Is there special channels just for Fallout London?
Yeah.
How does
Yes.
that work?
Yeah, so we've got 3 new radios. I think one of them essentially rehashes, it's specifically meant to be American music. So it rehashes some of the base game stuff because why not use it? It's there. I think that's Diamond City Radio. You might be able to correct me on that, Pro.
Yeah, we don't call it Diamond City Radio.
We don't call it that, but
Yeah.
it's now called something else.
Crystal Palace Radio.
Crystal Palace Radio, that's it. We've got The Mend, which is all our own music. I believe most of the tracks made by Seth Bentos and a few other people who submit music. That's kind of a nice mix between some kind of classical 20s, 30s sounding music, some recreations of classics as well. So our own versions of stuff like Vera Lynn. Oh God, the name's just left me. The name of the song that is, but also a lot of Seth Bentos' music, who has this brilliant style. We wanted to kind of capture the British 60s pop music almost. I say almost because it's not that. A lot of people would go, oh, that's not Fallout. The Fallout timeline diverts at about 63.
Yeah.
The Beatles and all that absolutely would have made it into Fallout London. Well, the 60s music.
Yeah, I think
anyway.
people also don't realize that the music in the US was very different to what we were listening to in the UK. So obviously they went from like the post-war, the 40s, 50s and stuff. They sort of stuck to the stuff that maybe you would hear in the normal games, which is what we have on our Crystal Palace radio. Whereas we got very avant-garde, as in the UK. Like, you know, we then started going through like the punk scenes, the rockers would like, they started in like maybe the 50s at the very, very early age, and then definitely like developed into the huge cultures a bit later on. So yeah, we definitely tackled some of those in there. I mean, we have to. We've got themed factions on some of them, so it'd be a bit weird if you only had "I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire" by the Ink Spots playing with a bunch of like, you know, mods and skinheads. So we needed to have like relevant tracks.
Totally different vibes.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite vanilla Fallout radio station? For me, it's Galaxy News Radio, and Three Dog. Like, his absence in Fallout 4 felt pretty hardcore, actually. I thought he they slayed it with Galaxy News Radio on Fallout 3 for me. What's your guys' favorite radio station in Fallout? Or do you, if you don't remember the exact name, no big deal, obviously. Galaxy News Radio is an easy one to remember.
Do you know yours, Sonny?
GNR. Yeah, I share mine with you. I probably listen to that for hundreds of hours. Same. Overall. Yeah.
I really I don't like the radio. I turned it off straight away. I prefer the ambient. It's much like you said that you prefer to listen to things without words. I think when I'm playing a game, to listen to like Atom Baby or whatever playing on the background, or bongo bongo bongo, like I want to be immersed into like the atmosphere. And I think one of our strongest elements is the ambient soundtrack done by Dansky. On ours at least, and it was one of my favorite things from Skyrim. I know they didn't have a radio, but like Skyrim as well as like the older games was definitely the ambient. There's just also something about the silence of when you're in like a building that's creepy and you hear nothing apart from like creaks and stuff. That's chef's kiss. But yeah, hearing bongo 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 when you're walking around, like
Civilization
it's
is the name of that song.
Sorry, it's fun, but it's for me, like it does ruin the vibe somewhat. Yeah.
No, it can. And I play Fallout 76 because I don't like the radio in that game. So I play that with ambient music. And I wish I would have played Fallout 3 almost with more. Luckily, it looks like we might get a remake in the future. We'll see. And based on the leaks. Of course, lots of things have changed since then, but I can't go back and play that. I played it too much when I was younger. Let's see here. Let's see, ask one or two more. No, went over that. For anyone looking to break into the modding scene and make something as large scale as Fallout London, what's some advice you could offer to up and coming creators?
Sonny, take that one, please.
It depends on what you want to get out of it. If you just want to do it as your hobby, knock yourself out. Do whatever you want to do, create whatever you want to create. If you want to join a large project, however, they're all run differently. But I definitely say, if it's something you actually want to get over the line and it's run well, the project lead or departments leading it are really set on getting it out, hitting a deadline, if you will. Be prepared to give up a lot of your own free time. Some people immediately will not do that, or they won't have the commitment to do that. I think that is even the case for solo devs or solo modders. Manga Club's a really good example of this. He makes a lot of mods, like Silent Hill mods for Fallout 4. He's absolutely dedicated to it. That's all he does. He absolutely loves doing it. He's created Whispering Hills, I think it's the name of his big one. And that's, if I'm not mistaken, him solo modding. And you can play Silent Hill in Fallout 4, essentially, or Fallout 4 feels like Silent Hill. That, for some people like him, I'd say it's passion. That's a hobby for him. That's a passion that comes deep down. I am fluffing this up and being very nice about it, because there's another side to it where
which is my answer.
Yeah, which is going to be Pro's answer, which is a lot of people do it for CV padding.
Oh yeah,
yeah. What I would
by
say,
the way, he means cover letter padding for the audience.
Yes, yeah. Or portfolio, which on a project like ours can be quite hurtful if someone just wants to come in, get their name on the project, and then go. Because some of us have been sitting there for years, spending our free time. I think I did a quick maths on it. I think if we was to pay full-time wages over the years that we have been working on this project would have easily spent over $1 million. Now, that is
I don't want to hear this.
Yeah, easily. He doesn't want to hear it. No one wants to hear it, but that's the reality of the situation. When someone wants to just pad the CV, do that on your own terms, I would say. If you want to be really serious and join a project like this, you need to know how to work with other people. And you need to be willing to work with other people. There is often, and you find it more in the Fallout modding community over something like Skyrim's. In the Fallout modding community, you often find people want to hide their tools away, or they really want to do it their way. That's not a slate on anyone. It's just that's my experience from working with quite a few people. Well, probably hundreds of people over the last few years. There is a lot of positives to it, though. That may have sounded negative, but there is a lot of positives. Sometimes you get people who are really good at something specific, and you'd never ask them to do anything else because they're so damn good at what they do.
I think you only sound negative because, and I've been listening to you guys talk and listening to the other interviews, and starting a business is very similar to what you guys did. You're going assuming that you bootstrap it. You're not going and getting funding, using that funding to then fund a company, and everyone's getting paid right off the bat. Most businesses, here in the United States, they're getting a small business administration loan, or they remain one employee forever. And the ones that are in between and they're getting bootstrapped, there's multiple people putting a lot of time at first working on this thing that may or may not pan out. And really, it's just whether You're going to put the time in on top of your full-time job, assuming you have one, which most people do. And you're really going to tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to stop until I reach the next point in my personal roadmap or my business's roadmap. And then after that, I'm going to go to the next point. And even no matter what pops up between me and that point, what obstacle, I'm going to keep going. And that's really what it takes to make something this large or start a business, is quite literally telling yourself that it sounds cliche, but really telling yourself that it's going to happen no matter what, and just keep going for it.
I don't think that's. I think you're 100% correct. We have this the amount of times. Like there'll be times where we'll be up until I don't know what time in the morning, and we're probably saying all manner of expletives at each other, but it's because we know that after the expletives have gone, we're going to solve the issue.
Yeah.
And I think that is what will break down. Like kicking or screaming, this mod's coming out. And, you know, we had this we call it goinking because it's the nicer way of saying that we're just screaming at each other and the engine until the trains work. But did the trains work? Yes. Are they fantastic? Yes. So we got there in the end. And I think ultimately, matters. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is you discover through these endeavors who you can work with. And the one that's prepared to sit there and not just be a yes man, to be sitting about, no, that's not going to work, or this 100%. Needs to work like this before. Because you can work with all these people. If everyone just sits there and just goes, oh, that's great, Prill, you're doing awesome. That's not helpful for me. I need someone like Sunny that will turn around and be like, that is too high poly, we need to optimize it or whatever. And I will kick and scream, but he'll be like, no, this is for the better of the project. And then you sell me on it being the betterment for the project, which means the better overall outcome for the fans. That's what you sell me on, not the thing itself. And I think when you build a group of people like this is why Fort London has become what it has. And I think that's why any future endeavor should hopefully go to the same success level. I don't see why it wouldn't.
And yeah, it seems like you're hyper focused on, you know, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you're hyper focused on one thing, much like I am at any given time, depending on what company I'm talking about. But VGT is obviously my full-time job at this point in time. And it seems like you're hyper focused on one thing, and that's what the fans are going to be experiencing at the end of the day.
Yes.
And there's a lot of small contextual micro obstacles or micro goals, but as long as whatever the problem that arises or solution that arises results in that, everything's going to be good. But that said, that actually brings up the next question, which is future endeavors. Do you guys have, I know obviously, let's wait and see and get this game out the gate. Is there anything you guys would like to do in the future? Maybe you guys haven't settled on anything yet. You've undoubtedly talked about something, whether you'll talk about it today or not.
So you know, I think ultimately, I think it would be silly not to try and do something. At the end of the day, it all, as you correctly said, it all hinges on how the release goes, which is why we didn't want to just half bake a release. You know, that's why we were prepared to delay, and it was why we were also prepared to make sure that we could fix things for this next gen version. You know, so it all hinges on that release because you only get one chance to make a good impression. Yes. But I think it would be silly not to try and do something afterwards, because even if it comes out and it's a bit of a disaster, obviously touch wood it won't be, but we know how each other work at this point, and for all of us to just put down our tools and never see each other again would be such a waste of friendships, talents, and experience of working with each other. We're at the point where like someone can come on and in their hello message, I know if he's in a bad mood, and vice versa with me, because we're working day in and day out. And it'll be like, right, well, today's going to be a productive day because we've all got the same mindset on. Or is it, should we go play a game or something to try and chill out because then tomorrow it would be better? And it's the fact that I never had that with people. I used to work in like my 9-to-5 jobs. I'd come in and not really care about my work employees, just do my job and then go home. But I care for the team. It's like a mini family. And you know when your parents or whatever are in a bad mood or whatever, and it's the same thing. It's just family at this point. Dysfunctional family, but it's a family.
That's how VGT is as well. We're in the same way. We've been working together for some of us for It'll actually be 3 years on the 25th, so in 12 days. And some of us are in St. Louis, but most of us are all over the world. And yeah, it's great. Even though 80% of language is tone and body language, it's amazing how much you can pick up on over text with someone after you're given enough time to get to know them.
The full stop at the end of a message. If he gives me punctuation, there's something up, and vice versa. Like, neither of us are happy. If we put a full stop in the end of what we've just said, we're in a bad mood and we are not up for negotiating. Or a smiley. The smiley face emoji is that I would really like this done. Smiley.
I'm trying not to sound like really intense about this. Smiley.
Yeah. This absolutely needs to go in. We are not shipping without it. Smiley.
I'm familiar with that.
He's
all
checking
right.
his messages now. He's just like, he does this all the time to me.
Are there anything that you guys would like to say to the audience that you have or have not said in the past?
No, this has been very thorough.
London?
I think, no, it's been very thorough. Most of the points are across. Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
At least on my side, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's all been quite good. I don't know.
Cool.
Don't think of anything to add. Yeah.
Well, real quick before we close up, I want to say thanks to both of you guys for coming on to the show. I'm really excited to have you guys on here. I heard about the project shortly after you first announced it, and then of course after Amir here at VGT set up the interview, or got the possibility to set up the interview with you guys, I was extremely excited and watched way too many videos on it from all sorts of sources, and I'm very, very, very excited to play the game. And undoubtedly the audience, whether they've heard about it before or not, are as well. So first, thank you for coming on to the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Second, if you're watching this and you haven't heard of Fallout London until today, or you have and you haven't looked at it in a while or looked it up in a while, I highly recommend going on YouTube, which I believe is the best place to look up information about this from my experience of looking up information about it. And I believe on YouTube it's Team Folon, or FOLON. If you YouTube that, you'll find their YouTube channel and you will find the trailers, gameplay. You'll undoubtedly find videos from other sources talking about the game. You'll actually be able to see footage in case you are a more visual person than auditory. I highly recommend doing that. Of course, unfortunately, we're not able to give you a release date because, as you are well aware by listening to this, we are waiting on the script extender from third parties. However, please go and check out Fallout London when it releases. And finally, thanks again for coming on, and good luck with the release of Fallout London, you guys.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cheers. Yes, thank you very much.
It's been good.